everyone from OddsChecker. We are Golden Goal, your World Cup bets, previews, and all your picks and predictions. He's Martino Puccio. He covers football betting for The Athletic, also the State of the Play pod co-host. I'm Matias Weilmann. Martino, we had an early morning wake up today, but, as soccer or football fans, we're used to it. Tomorrow is a little earlier of a wake up, but I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, of course. Really excited to talk about the matches we watched and the 4 that we get tomorrow. So one more match is better than 3, in my opinion. So I'm really excited for all of it.
That works for me too. Let's start from the match that just finished, the U.S. and Wales. This looked like it was the U.S.'s match to lose or to slip away. Unfortunately, that did happen pretty late on a Gareth Bale penalty, ends 1-1. We're going to go through each of these matches and just tell me what you learned from these, because obviously now we have a little bit of a sample size to go off of.
Yeah, honestly, from this U.S. one, I don't think we learned too much. I really felt like the draw was kind of in play here, but you can't go against the U.S. in these circumstances. All the books had them over here in the States. They give you risk-free plays for them, so might as well. But the way it played out wasn't shocking at all, right? We didn't see any clean finishing from the U.S. The Tim Weah goal was fantastic, don't get me wrong, but Josh Sargent was basically useless in this match. The substitutes didn't do too much, and then lo and behold, the defense gave up a penalty late. Gareth Bale, always inevitable. He ends up scoring. And put it this way, you play like that against England, it might look as bad as it was for Ireland today. And that's pretty much that.
Yeah, this is something that we pointed out as a possibility for some struggles for the U.S. is just that finishing. You talk about those risk-free bets. A lot of them get you on Pulisic, but he's probably not going to be your main goal scorer. A lot of people did cash in, though. 85% on OddsChecker was on both teams to score. So a big win there. Ends up the U.S. and Wales drawing at 1-1. And again, we're going to see those flip-flop on the group on Friday. So we're going to see U.S. and England and Iran and Wales. We're going to get to that one in a second. Next up is Netherlands and Senegal. We know there was no Sadio Mane. Said this was probably the match to determine the group. It was a late 1-0 goal for Netherlands, and then they tacked on that 2-0. Before, I want to have you take your victory lap here, because on our preview episode, you said that this one might end 2-0. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I guess kudos to me. I have to say, I did forget that I mentioned that because I was getting texts from a bunch of friends who were betting the match. But yeah, I mean, again, not surprising with the way this goes down. And that's why you always give yourself those options, 1-0, 2-0. Mm-hmm. That's why I mentioned both, because stuff like that happens at the end of it. Could have been worse. Senegal had some opportunities. Again, really low scoring type of match in this one. And they didn't play that poorly, Senegal. And considering the way Ecuador and Qatar looked, they're still very much in this. I know Sadio Mane is going to be difficult to play without, but they had some opportunities. There were some great saves by them as well. And they're not going to be facing anyone as good as Cody Gakpo up front within this group. So I think they could rest a little bit easier, but I do know that most teams don't after they lose their first match of the tournament. But not all hope is lost for Senegal. But again, the Netherlands, I think this was a professional win, take care of business. Don't allow a goal in this. 2-0 is exactly what they needed in the first match.
Yeah, Senegal created about enough to make Netherlands fans worry, but in the end, you mentioned just the absence of Mane ended up kind of pushing them to a point where they couldn't really finish or keep up, and obviously that late goal to make it 2-0, and those are going to flip-flop as well. You mentioned Netherlands and Ecuador. If they can win that, they'll lock up the group at that point. We're going to talk about Ecuador in a second because they played in the opener. But before that, the early morning game, it was England 6, Iran 2. Look, you bet this. I bet this. I think half of the globe bet this on under 2.5 goals here. We know Iran had a good defense. England maybe had some questions. I don't know how to put this. It didn't happen. We had 8 goals total.
Yeah, I mean, it was a beatdown. I guess kudos to people who bet Taremi to score. Obviously, he's a big favorite for some of them. So he obviously got the brace despite a 6-2 beatdown by England. It really was befuddling type of game because we saw a goalkeeper pretty much get concussed and then stay on the pitch and then get substituted off. And then the second that substitution happened, it all went downhill from there. I think it's also probably important to note as well that if there is a concussion for a player, that substitute won't count towards the 5 that you're given in this tournament. So that's why they had so many. And then again, the depth of England just showing and prevailing here. I mean, just players that they're able to bring off the bench, Marcus Rashford, Jack Grealish scoring goals. I mean, Phil Foden was involved in some of this buildup as well. Jude Bellingham, just an absolute unbelievable player at just 19. He scored the header for them there. And again, 6-2 when Harry Kane isn't scoring. Again, just really insane. And I think that plays back into a part of what we were talking about in the preview is that, sometimes when there's offenses like this that are so loaded, everybody eats. And that's why it's kind of risky to bet some of these guys to be the top goal scorer of the tournament. And today showed why. But again, England, they're just showing they're the class of this group. This isn't the way USA and Wales played today. I don't see how England doesn't finish with 9 points.
Yeah, it was. There were encouraging things from the U.S., especially early, but right when you felt like they couldn't take their foot off the pedal, kind of felt like what happened. And our last match to get to kind of break down, it was the opener. It was Ecuador 2, Qatar 0. We figured that Qatar might come out with a little bit more juice just because they're a host, and with everything going on around here, you kind of had these two stats going at each other, these two trends, and you warned us to stay away from these. You had the debutants in the World Cup that had not won ever in their opening match, and then you had the hosts who don't ever lose in the opening. And obviously it was Ecuador 2 and Qatar 0, so you know which one won there. And Valencia had 2 goals. Ecuador looked like they had more chances, but all in all, looked pretty sharp in the opener.
I mean, they completely dominated this one. I don't even think it was close. And this is why you stay away from games like this, because completely new tournament, first time ever seen Qatar in this type of tournament as well at this high level. Yeah, they might do well in their conference, but again, you never truly know how you stack up. And again, Ecuador is one of those pretty good sides in CONMEBOL in South America. They always have talented players. Ender Valencia and Caicedo were two of them. They made their mark in this match. I mean, this wasn't even close. Because I can't, and I don't mean to rag on them. There is no reason to bet them the rest of this tournament. I'm talking spreads, maybe consolation goals. You never know in the third match. But as of right now, they still have to play Senegal and the Netherlands. Ecuador was arguably the third best team in this group. And the fact that they got beat down like that in the opener when you're supposed to come out with that much energy, if you can't come out with that much energy and make a competitive match for that, and now Senegal's backs are against the wall, the Netherlands still, obviously, they're level with points on Ecuador at the moment, and both the differential is the same as well. So, again, they're not going to have any easy breaks right now. And to put it simply, if anybody in this group does not beat Qatar, it's a massive disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, this match felt as lopsided as the 6-2 match that we saw this morning. So we've put aside everything we've learned so far, which honestly, from some of these matches, might not be too much. Everything kind of went as expected for the most part. Let's get to what we're going to see tomorrow. We've mentioned it. Get your cups of coffee early. Make sure you set your coffee maker for 4:55 a.m. or 5 a.m. if you want to be a little risky. It's Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Argentina are a heavy favorite in this one out of Group C. Tell me some things you're looking for in this match.
Yeah, I think this will be kind of similar to what we've seen in the matches against Iran, even Ecuador, and then as well, like the Netherlands, they created plenty of chances. It's not like they were lacking in any. This, I just expect lots of goals. Both teams to score, I would say too risky. I think Argentina would do this again. If the winning margin bets are also great to look at. If you ever look at something, that's like Argentina to win exactly by 2 goals or 3 goals. Books have those, but something I personally like, same game parlay, and you can split this up 2 different directions because Argentina money line has so much juice on it. So if you want to take it out, but I have over 2.5 goals total in the match. Argentina money line, and then Lautaro Martinez to score at any time. That's plus 167. Again, if you don't like 3 legs on a parlay, that doesn't even hit plus 200. I understand it. You can take Argentina money line out of there, and if you like Lautaro, and then you go over 2.5, you still get pretty good stuff for only 2 legs. So for me, I kind of like looking at stuff like that. You could obviously have Messi to score at any time as well. But the thing is with that, I don't really like taking, numbers that are around like minus 130 for stuff like this. If you mix it in with a juicy, money line that Argentina has. So I kind of stay away from that. But again, if you like any of these other goal scorers, I really do think Argentina is going to pour it on because, again, these are the matches that they have to pour on the goal differential that separates themselves just in case some of these other teams give them a really tough match in Mexico and Poland.
And before we go any further, just to explain if anyone isn't aware, what you're seeing on your screen is the OddsChecker odds board. So we have our comparisons across every single book so you can get the best odds. So there's no reason to bet that minus 170 if you can get something at, minus 150, for example. Obviously, every book does things a little differently, so there's no reason to not get that best value. Going back to that parlay you kind of cooked up, I kind of agree, whenever you're throwing in an anytime goal scorer and it's not really breaking 200, that does give me a little bit of pause. You did mention this on the last episode, though, which might be interesting. It might be, Argentina to score within the first 30 minutes because in my eyes, this can go one or two ways. I kind of recall the Argentina match against Iran from 2014 where they kind of just parked the bus and they had not a single player outside the 18 and you had to rely on a Messi goal in the last 5-10 minutes. So it's possible it's that. This might be too talented of a team for that to even work out. So that might be something to take a look at here.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though, because Lautaro Martinez, like I was saying in the previous show, he's just that type of player that's relentless in the press, right? Like Gonzalo Higuain was the striker in 2014, and if unfortunately he was infamously known as the guy who couldn't make weight as a footballer, and that's kind of something you get scared off of. But again, when you have a player like this that presses so well, you force these poor teams into making mistakes because they don't see this level of pressing anywhere, right? Like imagine a basketball team just pulling out a full court press for a side that has never seen anything like that, and they're already lacking a bunch of talent. Those teams are going to be forced into mistakes, and mistakes lead to goals, which will help Argentina in this case. And the front man is Lautaro Martinez. Again, there's even stuff I like looking at too as well on FanDuel. If there's players to score braces, right? He's at plus 1,100 for something like that. Seriously, like if you think you see a beatdown going between Saudi Arabia and Argentina in this, and you say, okay, I could see Lautaro Martinez scoring 2 goals. You have plus 1,100 with that. Seriously, is it that far-fetched for something like that to happen? No, exactly. And you get odds like that. I mean, we're talking place up $100. I don't have to do the math for you. That's why we have the graphics. You could see some sort of payout like that. It's pretty incredible. So I just like keeping my eye out for stuff like that, especially if it's in the moment. Like, okay, you know what? I kind of like the way they have this lineup set up, and the vibes are different for them. And again, put it 5 minutes before. Check what the odds are. It's never too dangerous for some. And again, you don't have to make big unit plays on numbers like that. So.
Hey, the vibe check apparently looks good on Lautaro to score 2 goals tomorrow. And again, if you want to play it 5 minutes before the match time starts, be my guest. But remember, it does start at 5 a.m. I don't know how early you guys wake up. I am not a 5 a.m. wake up type of guy if I don't absolutely have to. The second game is Denmark and Tunisia. This is kind of an interesting one to play. Denmark, you can get them really anywhere from like minus 1,800 to minus 200 as the favorite. Denmark seems to be a popular pick for a team to advance. They're kind of one of those sleeper picks to maybe get something done. Now with Christian Eriksen coming back, thankfully. Anything kind of pique your interest? Anything you're looking at here?
I think this is going to be a very professional win, similar to what we saw with the Netherlands today. They're so stout defensively. They have midfielders that can control the tempo of the match, and they do have players that can finish. As far as things go in terms of scoring a lot of goals, that's something I kind of don't see happening. Again, we did say that for England and Iran, so you never know what's going to happen. But just the way Denmark approaches overall games here, and Tunisia, they're going to have to sit back. It's really nothing impressive with them, and it's no disrespect, but sometimes you have to take what you're given in these situations. For me, Denmark, they could win this 1-2-0 in this. But again, all I've been looking at is kind of the under, and the under for 2.5 is not that bad of a play. A 2-0 win for Denmark. They don't have to exert too much energy. I think that's the type of game that you're going to see. I don't really see a 3-0 beatdown. That's just something I don't see Denmark doing. But again, if you like that, 2.5 on the under is something that you could take comfortably.
Yeah, and I think if you wanted to sprinkle a little bit on no for both teams scoring, I think Denmark is just too solid and too much of an advantage in the midfield as well. I know Tunisia does have some quality in the midfield as well, but I think once you make it into that 18-yard box, I just don't think you're getting more than one, if one, past this Denmark defense, who will probably, like you said, have a professional win tomorrow. And then we move on to our third game. This is really interesting. keeping in Group C, this is probably the match of the group. I think we both agree that Argentina more than likely wins this group, but who comes second is interesting. You have Mexico and Poland. Mexico is the favorite at about 160 in that range. Poland up to about plus 210. I got to say, I'm kind of leaning the other way. I'm looking at Poland just initially here to win on the money line.
Yeah, God bless you if you're good with that. I really like this one. This one is so tough, and I know I was even saying that about Denmark, Tunisia. But for me, the only thing that I concretely like in this one is both teams to score. Yes, I don't love either defense. You're talking about the best striker in this tournament now, especially since Benzema is out. So Robert Lewandowski, I can't really count him out. They're going to have Zelensky. It was a little bit of a scare that they thought he might be missing any time, but he's one of their good creators as well. Mexico's defense obviously terrifies me. They're carrying goalkeepers like, listen, Ochoa is great almost every single tournament that he steps up in, but they're really susceptible to a lot of bad goals. We've seen it during qualifiers, during CONCACAF, and it's kind of carried over into some of these tournaments as well. I don't think it's going to be anything super high scoring, but I do think both of these teams are susceptible to allowing goals in the back of the net. And again, I think you were the one who put down Lewandowski to score and Poland to win. Then at this point, so I'm just curious on this because I want to know what those odds are then.
Yeah, I mean, for Lewandowski to score, it was coming in at around 130 last I checked. That was fluctuating quite a bit. And look, I mean, he is the favorite to score on the Polish side, and for good reason. You mentioned it. Mexico has been susceptible to giving up some head-scratching goals, and then Ochoa making the best save you've ever seen. And yes, if you're wondering, Ochoa is the guy who looks like Ted from How I Met Your Mother, if you're remembering correctly, from the other World Cups. I just think that Mexico has too many questions. And we talked about vibes a little bit before. Vibes are not good for Mexico right now. And I think Poland is going to come into this knowing that this is a match they absolutely need if they want any chance to advance or to even try to win this group. You talk about Lewandowski has been so good at Barca in form, kind of that last stretch run as his career starts to come to an end. That's kind of why I like Poland. An interesting one, too, I wanted your opinion on this, is for the second half to have more goals at minus 110. Obviously, there's not that much there. I just think this is a game that might take a little bit to adjust to, and then Poland to finally break through, whether it's 1-0, 2-1, whatever.
No, I think it makes sense, especially if you consider that this is like kind of the game for second place, right? People would say. So when it comes to that, then you're thinking, okay, how are they approaching this first half, right? Because they don't want to be the ones to go behind, because then whoever falls behind first is going to be scrambling to try and grab that second goal. And especially if it goes into the second half, like you're talking about, because then at that point, you're sitting there saying, well, for instance, right, Poland's up 1-0 and it's heading into the second half. Mexico knows you got to get another one. And that game completely opens up, whether it's counterattacks for Poland, whether it's scoring opportunities for Mexico. You're going to be able to see stuff like that. I don't think it's far-fetched whatsoever. And to be honest with you, I do think these teams are going to get desperate. And with the 5 substitutions, I think this drastically changes the way you have to look at these games. Because if people and coaches in whatever country is able to sub on key players late into a match, that just gives that extra burst of energy that we've never seen in this tournament. So when stuff like that happens, I understand where you're coming from with second half most goals.
And don't forget, also, we're giving away a lot of money this November to help you with your November shopping, to help you with whatever you want, whatever's at the top of your wish list. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube page yet, you can subscribe and comment on any video. It can be this one if you really want, and you have a chance to win $500. We also have the spread challenge over on our Instagram page. You just have to guess 3 matches correctly. If you catch us on a good week and no one won the week before, it might be guess 1 match correctly, and you can win $100. Let's get to our final match for the day. This is the first time all tournament, thankfully, and it's going to be the last time in the group stages. I believe that we're going to have 4 matches in the day. The 2 p.m. one might also be a snoozer as well. It's France and Australia. France is a huge favorite at about minus 400, I believe. It's been dipping into the 3s, going up to the 5s. No one has any idea really what we're going to see from France with so many injuries.
Yeah, I guess we could. I guess we could say something like that. To me, again, the only question mark that we're seeing here is the midfield. Like, how does the midfield stack up? Because like Australia isn't that difficult of a team, but we're talking about basically the same attackers returning that won them the World Cup. Olivier Giroud is going to be starting in place of Benzema, who's out for the entire tournament. I do think, in terms of France bets, we only see something taking a significant hit is the futures. As far as
Hmm.
singular match goes against Australia, I don't think it's that desperate or dire. Giroud has still been fantastic for a certain team in league play, and then we also see Kylian Mbappe as arguably the best player in the world. So if the best player in the world is hitting peak form right now, heading into the World Cup, I do have a little play here that might be a bit risky considering the
Hit us.
combination. So both teams to score, no, because I don't really
Hmm.
love Australia. I do think France's defense is good enough for this. I don't think they're going to be surrendering too many opportunities, but it's also over 2.5 goals. So I am expecting a bit of a beatdown by France here. I expect something like 3-0. That gets you at plus 314. That is a really high number. That is obviously risky. I get it. But this is just me saying I don't really respect Australia that much. And at the same time, France didn't take that significant of a blow for a match like this. As far as something for a quarterfinal or a semifinal, I understand. But for Australia, they should be able to take care of things.
You're going to see our subscribers from Australia just plummet
I apologize.
after this point. Yeah, I mean, some of the ones that I like, again, if you're expecting a beatdown, again, the more goals you see, the more chances, obviously, you have to hit on an anytime goal score. Antoine Griezmann to score at plus 140, I saw it, is not a bad wager to make as well.
Mhm.
And again, if you're really expecting a beatdown, the more goals you're expecting, the least I would obviously suggest the both teams to score in this one. But if you want to go with the no teams to score and you're really feeling risky, you can take the over 3.5 at plus 186. That's where the best odds are coming at. Before we wrap up, any last bets, any last sage advice or big takeaways, Martino?
No, I would just say the injury to Benzema just for futures markets, just like a
Mm-hmm.
bit of advice to some people. I think it's still important to know of what France's path is for first place. Again, it's still going to be Brazil and Argentina on one side of the bracket for the semifinal. It's not like it's the end of the world for France not to have a path to get to the final. But I gotta say, I would not be placing money on France at this point. I don't really see why it's worth it. I think they would have needed Karim Benzema to win this tournament. They
Mm-hmm.
still have an outside chance, but I would have been scared off on that. And again, Cristiano Ronaldo, man, I have a funny feeling this guy is just going to shut up a lot of people. It's just the last part, and I know they don't play for a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
still, that's just somebody I'd be very weary of. If you're someone that's fading him, I would never fade a player like that. It's like betting against Tom Brady. Like if you lose a bet where you went against him, you're gonna feel stupid because he's done it
Like,
time
why'd
and
I do
time and
that?
again. Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't bet against the guy. So for me, just I still a little bit of respect for Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he's still capable of doing some damage this tournament.
Yeah, I think just the range of outcomes are so wild. We talked about on the betting preview, I think your exact words were, I wouldn't be surprised, or if you told me Portugal didn't qualify, it wouldn't be the craziest thing. But we also know that Cristiano Ronaldo can just run the table by himself. Make of this what you will. The last 3 Euro winners have had the leading goal scorer in the World Cup the following World Cup, and Cristiano Ronaldo was the leading goal scorer for the last Euro. So just saying, make of that what you will. He's Martino Puccio. I'm Matias Weilmann. This is Golden Boot. We will be with you Monday through Friday, week in and week out, breaking down what we saw on the pitch, what's coming up the next day with your best bets. Keep it locked on OddsChecker US.